Yes. So that, to me, that was very interesting. And so they approach Jesus in this time to try to put him on the spot and to confront him and to say, okay, we're asking you for this sign. Can you produce it? Tell us that, or show us that we are wrong. Basically, essentially what they're saying. And then Jesus' response to them was powerful, because he's saying, you're asking for a sign, and you can predict the signs in the sky, but you're failing to miss the most prominent sign right in front of you, which was Jesus.
And I just kind of thought, well, what signs had Jesus given them up at this point? What had he already done? And there are countless. He had cleansed lepers. He'd healed many. The woman had touched his hem and been healed. He healed blind and mute men, cast out demons. He'd fed the 5,000 and then another 4,000. So there were plenty of signs for them to have seen if they had just believed.
Yes, I mean, there was multiple opportunities. There were multiple witnesses. There were multiple testimonies of what Jesus had already done. The issue, I think, we find is the claims that Jesus were making. That's where like Benjamin said, the lack of faith, the lack of belief in the fact that Jesus was the Messiah. And that was a slap in the face, so to speak.
But up until this point, I mean, they're experts of the law, and so they know the law in and out. And I mean, looking back, even Jesus had addressed that. He said, I do not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, back in Matthew 5. But I mean, looking at the law, it's funny to me that they know that so intimately, but then looking at the lineage of David, that the Messiah would come, and that it was prophesied, like, that they couldn't have put two and two together of who Jesus was, but it wasn't in the will or in the cards for them to do that. They were serving a purpose.
I think a large part too as to why they didn't, like you said, there were so many signs before him, but as to why they didn't recognize him is he did things so differently, so counterculturally than to what they had expected or what they believed. And I know a lot of the Jewish sects at the time, they believed that the Messiah would come and he would be this political leader and he would reign over Israel and he would dethrone Rome. And like we were talking about the major groups in my subnotes here, of the three major sects of Judaism that day, the Pharisees, Essenes, and the Sadducees were a small but influential group that philosophically denied the supernatural, and then this last part's the big part, and gravitated instead toward political control of the people. Yeah. And that's what, those were really their hearts, and that's what they had expected out of the Messiah.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of feeds into what we were reading in this next section, that they were so focused on the then and now, that someone was going to come free them then, not looking at, eternally free them. But the next, do you want to read?
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.